pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll with Atlantic. Flight downside speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
Greetings, fellow tank watchers. We're live again for another static fire attempt. Hopefully this one will go to plan. Yesterday's was aborted before we got anywhere close to the business end of the test, but we're hopeful that everything's been checked out, everything's good to go now, and we'll be getting to see a 3-engine static fire test. First of all, it's myself, Chris Bergen. I somehow run this site. Would you believe? I don't believe it myself half the time. We're joined by Stephen Marr. Say hello, Stephen.
Hello, everybody. Let's give it another go.
And as always, if you have any questions, at NASASpaceflight with your question, it'll come up in our very handy little queue thing Michael set up, and we'll envision to answer every question we can, which is usually impossible because it gets so many people on these streams because everybody loves these starships. It's quite an intriguing situation, actually, because we've got SN10 on the pad now, but remember, if you watch Mary's daily videos, and I'm sure you all do, you've got SN11 down in the high bay, ready to roll almost. The aero surfaces are on, nose cones on. They've got SN15 in the mid bay. They've got passed up to SN19. A Raptor arrived today. There's so much going on you wouldn't believe. Also, the BN1, there's more progress on the stacking for that one. So at some point in the not too distant future, we'll not just see Starships rolling down Highway 4, we'll see a super heavy booster rolling down Highway 4. And if you thought Starships were interesting to see, wait till you see the super heavy booster rolling down on the rollers down the Highway 4, especially that bend at the corner, which will be quite intriguing to see how it gets around that bend, but we'll find out when it happens. I do believe we have Mary on as well. We've got her camera, so we've got all the views, the bots and Mary. Thanks to Mary as always, because without Mary we wouldn't be doing this at all anyway, so it's all thanks to her. And we're going to basically look to see how far they are now. They've got the condenser on, I do believe, at this point. And then we'll get into this timeline, which we can use Adrian's spreadsheet. And hopefully we've got that overlay again today, because I thought that was fantastic yesterday when we saw it. But yes, Steve, what do you think about what you're seeing today? Are you hopeful for a static fire test?
I mean, I'm always hopeful. It's nice because I don't know enough to get me in trouble. I see that there's activity and I'm like, okay, we're doing it today. I'm just like the eternal optimist. And I've been hanging out in the fleet cam with some people. So shout out to the people in the fleet cam chat that were hanging out earlier.
Tell you what, fleet cam came in so handy the other day when we saw those seagulls arriving back on the drone ship. It's just,
yeah.
There's no way they were the same 3 seagulls, but it just seemed ironic that the 3 seagulls that were on the drone ship during that night landing attempt, which was aborted, it came back with 3 seagulls.
I was really kicking myself for not being out there to get a shot of 3 seagulls and then being able to claim these are those seagulls.
We could have got some bird experts in to sort of like look for their feathers and say, yes, that one has got the same feather marking as the one drone ship which we saw.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine they were pretty thankful that Falcon 9 did not stick to landing. I was like, when I watched that video over, I was like, oh, I wonder, like, would they have gotten out of the way in time? I sure hope so. You know?
Well, you know what? I would assumed it had got out of the way. There's that landing button, so that's my thought. I mean, they jumped. You could see them jump when they
definitely jumped.
Yeah, the rocket itself gave way, and that was a fair distance away from the drone ship, so I presume so. But I'm always reminded of STS-121, where there were 3 turkey vultures, which got a little bit to shuttle fandom and got too close to Discovery during launch. And they literally bounced off the external tank. There was no velocity involved, so they weren't knocked out by that. But they were knocked out by the actual sound. So the sound knocked them out. That's why they fell down the side of the tank. There was actually a 10-page PDF on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
did a full report on it.
It's actually it was a risky thing because a bird that size, a turkey vulture, hitting the foam of the external tank could have caused foam liberation or foam damage, which could then come off later on in flight when it was a serious problem for velocity with the impact on the TPS of the orbiter. So they were really concerned about it. And ever since that incident, they put up these like scare vulture things up on around the pad. They had like balloons with birds of prey faces on them. and that's what
Oh.
kept the birds away from the pad.
Kind of like how some of the condos around like Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral, they have the little fake owls sitting up on the corners. I think they're mostly to keep like birds away and like look maybe even rodents. I don't know if the rodents will look up there and see the silhouette of an owl and get scared. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
I can imagine. But it is a serious thing. I mean, we always laugh about these things like the Wallops frog and things
Right.
like that. There's
Yeah,
so many incidents where wildlife has got too close. But these launch pads, most launch pads around the world are in wildlife areas. That's just
Yeah.
by design, and KSC takes it very seriously. They've got certainly respect for their wildlife, and they try and protect the best they can. But yeah, there's risks involved when they start hitting vehicles, so you don't want it to happen. But I've got a list of super chats already to read out, so let's get this done before we get into the business end of this countdown.
Yeah, go for
Firstly,
it.
Patrick, thank you very much for your $10. With how the Starlink launches keep getting delayed, and now that the extended fairing is on the way, do we think we could see SpaceX send a batch of 2 Starlinks up on a super heavy? Now,
Falcon Heavy.
I'm gonna basically take that question as using the Falcon Heavy's extra lift and an extended fairing to put extra satellites inside to do a larger batch of Starlink launches in one go rather than the 60. You know what? I have never even thought about that, and
That is a good
something
question. Yeah, I never thought of it either.
I have never thought about what that could do. I mean, the problem is it's a lot of booster for just more Starlinks, and I think what we do envision is that the first operational launches of Starship, with all that fairing capacity, will launch like 4 Starlink missions in one go, like 240 satellites. So that makes a lot more sense. The risk there is it'll still be very early into its lifetime, and you risk losing them as a result. So it's something where Starship will initially start live. That's a perfect payload because it's internal, it's SpaceX, it's Starlink, it's not a customer's payload, which even if it's insured, you just don't want that kind of like on your blot sheet where it says, oh yeah, we lost the first few Starships and they had a ComSat satellite on board. You don't want to do that. If you're going to lose your Starship, go on.
It's actually really interesting how beneficial it is that Starlink is a thing, because of course the reason behind it is, they need some money coming in to help fund their Mars ambitions, but also we've seen them use the Starlink launches to get their booster flight counts up. We're now on 8. We're up to 8 now on a single booster, and then also they'll be able to use it for the initial orbital flights of Starship to kind of get some experience under their belt. So it's really a good thing for them to have. It's brilliant that they came up with that idea.
I'm going to try and find a way of bringing into conversation. I know people ask Elon questions on completely random tweets, like he'll tweet something about his Tesla cars, and someone will reply going, "Is SN10 when hop? SN10 when hop?"
Right.
I'd rather him say something like the NSSF awards, or I forget what it was, US Air Force ones, where the extended payload's involved. I'd rather wait for him to tweet something like that and then suggest maybe if they could put extra Starlinks on that vehicle and see if he bites, but we'll see. DYU 18, I know you are. He goes $10. He goes Chris B. Now, obviously, no one random's going to do that. No one's going to randomly celebrate I'm on the stream. I know who he is, so that's fair enough. Trek with £5, obviously from the UK. Guys, is it really too early for us to say press F for SN10? Yes, it is too early.
Way too early.
It's always too early to press F for anything. And I know chat will do it anyway, but I just tell you, it gets annoying. So don't do it. And I'm waiting for chat to do it just because I said that. Utah Skinny, $4.99, and no question, just threw the money at us. That's very much appreciated. Again, we'll answer questions anyway. You don't have to put money in. Look at the chat room. Oh, unbelievable. You can't take this chat room anywhere, can you?
I've got it filtered to just the @NASASpaceflight, so I don't see
we can't ban the word F. we can't do that in the moderator room because that would literally just kill most posts completely anyway, because there'd be an F involved. Yeah. Anyway, let them get out of this system. Rough Riders Show $4.99. Now that Falcon Heavy extended fairing is soon, do you think they will stick? Hang on a minute, that's the same question as the
It's the
previous.
same.
Have you done the same question?
It's a good question.
It's a very good question, but you've asked it twice, and that means you've paid
Was it-
twice. Don't do
Is it
that.
the same person?
You know what? I'm too late. I've already pressed click on the Michael app, so I don't know if it was. Anyway, it was a good question, so fair enough. Rough Rider Show also happy birthday to Thomas. Yes, happy birthday
That's
to
right.
Thomas. Thomas fan club will all know that in advance, of course, because they all follow everything he does. But it is Thomas's birthday today, so everyone wish him a happy birthday in chat. That'll get you over the Fs. So let's put that in there. I think actually that question about Falcon Heavy was one question, and I didn't press the tick button because I'm a noob. Guy, $1, no question, just put $1 in. I tell you what, if we had that stream with SN9, we had 330,000 people on it. That was completely crazy. Just imagine if everyone did $1.
Right.
330,000. Well, I don't think it's
Imagine-
330,000 people.
How many robots?
And it actually has to be, doesn't it? Because it's watching now figure. That was a 330,000. It was 3.2 million views. And it was, oh my word, yeah. So imagine if I did $1 for that, we'd be buying. Daz would go shopping like you'd never believe. He'd be going around buying every robot available in stores.
Oh yeah. He'd have so many robots out there. You could do like that Matrix effect where
Yeah.
you have a robot every like 1 degree around the pad, and then you could get that still shot of it as it's going up, and then yeah.
It'd be like the scene out. I'm trying to think of the movie, the one with Will Smith in it. Oh, what's the name of the film?
I don't
Chat,
know.
help me out. The name of the film, The Robots and Will Smith.
Oh,
iRobot.
iRobot. Yeah.
There we go. It'd be like the scene where he goes to that warehouse to try and find that one rebellious robot, and there's just like 80 of them lined up in a warehouse. That'd be what Daz's dream would be. To basically just go buying all his robots, have a massive extended garage, and just basically just train them from there.
Have actual robots like that just out there holding cameras. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing, I wouldn't complain because we'd have the best streams possible. We'd have every single angle there is going.
Right.
I don't know how
yeah.
the internet would cope with it, but there you go. The boss, I got an email today saying Starlink Beta is now available for Northern Ireland. Is this the first place outside North America? No, it's not, because I got the email as well. I'm in Yorkshire.
I got it here too, by the way.
Yeah,
in
and
Florida.
that's what I was going to say. A lot of people responded to my gleeful screenshot of the email in Twitter as if I was like hand selected by SpaceX for this rollout of Starlink in the UK.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, everybody replied saying they got the email as well around the world. So that is it's cool, but I don't know if it was some marketing ploy to make you feel special, like you got an email saying you've been selected as first come first served if you order now.
Yeah.
Of course, I clicked order now literally within 1 minute. But I want it. I mean, the thing is, Starlink is something that is designed for rural areas. It's for people who are not in the middle of a big city who've got fiber and crazy speeds and reliable internet. It's not designed for them. I know people in those areas will still buy it because it's Starlink and they're SpaceX fans and they want a big antenna. And well, it's not a big antenna. They want an antenna to show off, saying, "Look, I've got satellite internet." That's cool, and it is cool. I'm in the middle of York, and I can't get 5G in the middle of York, which is crazy because I work in Leeds, and Leeds has got 5G everywhere in the city. It's not rolled out properly enough yet, so I can't use 5G. My internet is not fiber. I've got the option to go fiber, but I get 50 megabytes up, and that is the lowest end of what Starlink's promising initially. So that is something where Starlink wins again. If I was going to go to fiber, it would cost roughly what Starlink is going to cost, bar the cost of the actual router and the antenna. So it's not a massive jump up. And also, I really love the idea of Starlink as it is. So I'm going for it, and that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing it as some kind of like, oh, Elon, I'm tweeting him on Elon and take a screenshot of it and post it on Twitter and say, Elon, I got Starlink. How good am I? Thank you, Elon. Please like me.
It is kind of a small way to support, the Starship operations and stuff,
Well,
you can't buy stock in SpaceX, but you can buy Starlink, I guess.
You know what? It just seems right that I'll get to cover a Starlink launch via Starlink internet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That is just cool. I'm sorry. You only live once. If you think something's cool and you've got the ability to do it, do it. That's what I say. Cameron Mahoney with CA. That's Canadian, $6.99 Canadian dollars. Our man with a message definitely to Thomas. He says, happy birthday. I'm sure Thomas appreciates that. Charlie Brigden, how long do you think till we start seeing more heat shield tiles or whatever technical term is over the Starship prototype? They're called TPS, Thermal Protection System tiles. They are putting them in patches on these starships in kind of like a progressive manner. We saw the first initial little tiny patches on even on SN5 and SN6. And that was the test vibrations. It's things like fueling, where they get the contraction, the the expansion of the vehicle, and also the vibrations during what was their hops. We saw larger patches for Starship SN8 and SN9, and that again was to test how they do with propellant loading and how they do with the whole ascent and the flip and the attempted landing, shall I say. Mm-hmm. The tiles obviously fell off at that point because everything else fell off. So that was something they would have got data on for sure. They've got more and more tile patches, big patches on these vehicles now. SN11's got a big patch, I know that. We know that there's a big section that Mary filmed inside one of the production tents where they're literally covering it in TPS tiles, literally covering it. So that will be a full array of TPS tiles on at least that section. If that section is mirrored by more sections with full amounts of TPS, they are going for the full windward side TPS vehicle. And that could be like SN, 16, 17, something like that. That also points to them getting closer and closer to going orbital, which we do think they're going to try for this year. There's no promises. They've got to get things right first. But I'm sure that is Elon's aim. He would like to have an orbital Starship this year. That would be a massive achievement. He would also lay down the gauntlet to other providers. We heard about New Glenn coming out today and things like that. And we've also got to make sure I'm not missing the timeline here. So, Stephen, do you know where we are? Because I'm talking a bit long there.
Yeah, we're at propellant loading. Actually.
Yeah, you can see vapors underneath Starship.
Yeah, so cool. We are chugging right along.
This is farther than we got on yesterday's attempt, so far looking good. And the next thing we should see is that methane vent from the midsection of Starship.
And that's Michael Baylor there. I don't think we introduced him.
No, Chris
pulling
no,
the levers, and pushing buttons, pulling levers, that sort of thing.
That was my revenge for him always interrupting me when I'm usually on these live streams, because I usually give like a 10-minute answer, and in my class I say, "Shut up, Chris, something happening."
Well, if you want to wonder why that happens, there you go. Starlink and Blue Origin and propellant loading has started, so that's a good sign.
Yeah,
it is a good sign, but it's also an interesting thing where we can keep an eye out now for the big end of this event, which is basically things like Trivend, the siren. Mary will hear the siren probably, so we'll get a real good indication that when they get close to like T-minus 12 to 10 minutes. Again, it's not exact timing with the siren. It's not literally a police deputy waiting on some countdown clock that only has access to where he gets to T-minus 10 minutes. And there's also holes that could happen. But what we don't want to see is what we saw yesterday, which is the big vent. That's a depress vent. That's an abort, and that's hopefully a recycle. But like last night, it wasn't a recycle. That was the end of testing for that day. But right now, if this static fire goes to plan, the earliest, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, the earliest they can launch is Thursday.
No correction. You're good.
There we go. Hey. So yeah, it's Thursday. Because TFRs were updating all the time, weren't they? So the earliest they would attempt is Thursday. But that again in itself is something to look forward to, because we do know that we're a bit concerned about the concrete curing. Their landing pad has been extended and repaired, and they were pouring concrete on Sunday. And I made the fatal mistake of asking on Twitter if there's any concrete experts who know how long it would take to cure before they could put a Starship on that pad. And I got several replies from people saying they'd once laid concrete in their backyard, and they gave a timeline based on that. My concrete experts were all DIYers who had once used concrete at their homes.
And they followed the instructions, and now they're experts.
Yep. Well, ironically, that's the kind of tweet I'd reply to, saying, "Yeah, I once did some paving flags and I put a bit of concrete down."
Yeah. I think a lot of times people are just like, I'm not sure, but this is what my experience was. But it's like, that's not really what we're looking for.
Yeah. And also, I'm just intrigued by this view because we can see the condenser and tank farm activity now. This is past, and we've got the vapors under Starship now. As Michael said, we're past the point we got yesterday. So that's a good sign. We're getting close to this static fire test. And there is the thing I absolutely love. This is the overlay of Adrian's spreadsheet that Mark, our webmaster, has spruced up into some lovely design where we can get a proper indication of what they're looking at. Remember, SpaceX do not give out countdowns or anything like that. They don't tweet, they've not tweeted there's a static fire attempt for Starship tonight. They just don't do that. Literally, all the information we get is from the experience of watching these tests over the months that we've been watching them. And we do know that the condenser starts between 34 and 36 minutes before T0. We've got past that point. Skirt vent. Now it starts around T-minus 17 minutes before the static fire test. Watch out for small clouds beyond the vehicle. We've got that. Upper tank vent. That's the next thing we're looking for. That starts around...
Which we just
saw.
We're there.
There it is.
There we go. Right on cue.
I'm not sure if that was actually it. Usually it's
a little
a
longer.
bit longer. I thought that was going to be it. Is it still coming out? Let's go to the other camera angle.
It's hard to say.
I don't know if that was it or not. Usually it's more vapor coming out, I think, but that might have been it. I'm not positive. Let us know in chat what you think.
Because if that is the point, we're about T-minus 16 minutes, and then we're getting closer to watching out for things like the skirt vent, which is the tri-vents, and they're very obvious. And that's when we really start getting excited about the prospect of 3 Raptors firing up. The engine firing itself will be only a few seconds. It will be literally like a very short event, but we do get some clues if it looks good. But hopefully Elon will at some point. He sometimes does, sometimes doesn't. He'll reply to a tweet saying, "Yeah, that was a good static fire test," or "We're looking good for Thursday," something like that. Something to give an indication, but that won't come immediately because they do with all static fire tests. They do what's called a quick look review. The quick look review will look into the parameters involved with the firing. That will include engine performance, the tankage performance. I'm just quickly watching. I thought that was tri-vent then for a second, but it's not. And that takes a little bit of time. It takes a few hours sometimes. That's why when you hear about a Falcon 9 static fire test at the Cape or 39A, you will see the tweets. You'll see the pictures of the static fire test, but SpaceX won't say anything for a few hours. And you think
Air Force. Look at that, Chris.
Yep. Here comes the Air Force.
Oh, yep. Boca Chica Air Force. They're just clearing the area, making sure the range is clear.
Yeah, there you go. Put the graphic up.
Time to plug the store.
Hey!
Air Force t-shirt. Get it now at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. And you got your flock of pelicans and Starhopper with sunglasses. Pretty hilarious.
When Mark does these graphics in our back end and he shows it, I think he's doing it for a joke. Next to me, I know it's live on the store.
Anyways, I think that was the methane vent because we have not seen another vent by now, and I'm getting told in our members Discord that the members think it was the methane vent, so I'm going to roll with it. If so, we should be seeing that engine chill start any moment now. We'll take a look at it from Mary's angle as well. No venting from the aft section of Starship yet, but like I said, that methane vent, or excuse me, that engine chill vent should be starting up here any minute now.
I have to read this question out because of the end of it. Any thoughts on the tanks being built, water tanks, maybe since they've been built there without vacuum insulation? Chris B fan club. Hey, I've got one. I've got a fan.
There you go.
Hey, Thomas, I'm catching you up. The main thing I want to answer there is probably not what you're asking, but I want to address something that we know that's going to happen. And that is the orbital launch pad. The amount of work going on there is crazy. There's so much going on there, and they're going to have to build a lot more they're called commodity tanks. Commodity tanks covers everything from water to liquid oxygen to methane. So I do believe we're going to see a lot more tanks being built there, but for the orbital pad, because remember, Super Heavy is going to need a lot more propellant. Obvious things. It's a bigger rocket, so that is something we will see. I don't know about the installation. No, that's something that's above my pay grade, so I'll have to defer on that one. Sarah, Sarah Eckerton. You know what? I can't pronounce her surname. Sarah Eckerton.
Exton.
There we go. She gets so annoyed with me when I read her out. I got paid today, so I can give more than $1. Happy birthday, Thomas. Safe journey, Jack, and enjoy Starlink, Chris. Thank you to Mary for being amazing. She's got everybody in there, so that's quite amazing, really. It's like an achievement in a super chat. But thank you, Sarah. I know Sarah, so it's all right. I can joke about the surname bit. For some reason, I must know somebody called Eckerton. I always want to say Eckerton when I read her name out. I must know somebody with that surname, and it's just got embedded in my brain. Arthur Muckheim. Oh, tell you what, Stephen.
I'll try it.
Yeah.
Makamadov.
Oh, there you go. See, I just can't do surnames.
Or Makavadov, maybe? Makamadov? But anyway, yeah.
Because on the screen I was looking at, it was cut into half, so that's what I'm struggling with. I've got another one here, Chris B Fan Club. What's going on?
There you go.
2.
Racking them up.
I've increased my fan club quota by 200% in just this spring. Always up for random shuttle references. And a nice shout out, Steve. You should hang in Fleet Cam more often. There we go.
Right,
You've got fans as well.
There you go.
So
I'll be there.
Our fan clubs here.
I'll be there when I can.
And Chris Brigden says, you pronounced my surname correctly. Yay. Arman, with your ISK 1500. I don't know what that is, but thank you very much. Much appreciated. And Bob, oh, come on now. This is getting silly. I've got a third fan. But much appreciated. Thank you very much. Right, I need to stop reading out things like that, and I need to get a tweet prepared for this tri-event. So, Stephen, if you have any thoughts of the day, please fire away.
Let's see. Thoughts of the day. I could go to some questions. We have some.
Yes, please.
Some at NASASpaceflight questions here. Let's see. Well, I'm not sure I can answer this like with actual numbers, but how quickly can the flaps move? Well, a good way to find out is you can watch the stream from the flights, because when they're leading up to flight, they'll flap the flappers and test them out and make sure they're working, the motors that do that. But when you see them in flight, you actually can see they move a lot quicker than I thought they would, especially for as big as they are. So it is pretty quick. As far as like an exact number, I'm not even sure how I would attempt that. Well, hey, you got another one. You got $5 from Chris K for the Chris B Fan Club.
See, people are going to start feeling sorry for me now. They're just doing it. I'll just do it because I've mentioned it. I've got... But I'm going to count them all, so I don't care. Thank you very much.
Let's see. Brian Craig asked, will this be a test of all Raptors? Yes, all 3 that are on board.
Yep.
Yep. Let's see. Someone said they thought they saw a drone. I don't know. I didn't see that. Did you see anything like that, Michael?
No, I've been working on a technical issue though, so I was not looking. I might have missed it.
Oh, actually, there's a couple people, yeah. And let's see, is it Labathan? Said, where do you see the methane vent? Well, actually, it just happened right there. So it's it's about midway up.
Oh yeah, that was the methane vent. So the first one was not the methane vent, that was the methane vent.
Yeah, so there you go, right as I was answering your question there.
So that's 16 minutes then until the approximate T0 based on the previous testing.
Very good, very good. Let's see. Here's a good one, and I'm gonna just take a stab at it, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. From Joshua Martin, what's the highest suborbital flight plan that Starship can perform? Could they test re-entry heating without having to go orbital? And if I remember correctly, a while back, maybe even a couple years, could have been, Elon had mentioned that one of their ideas for a test would be to go suborbital, but go well up into space and actually flip over so that their engines are forward in terms of their direction of travel, and actually fire the engines to come to accelerate their fall back down to Earth to get up to what would be orbital speeds, and then use that as their test to test out their heat shields and whatnot. So I think that
I
they
totally
could.
remember that. Yeah, I
Do
remember
you
that as well
remember that?
because yeah, it's not just the altitude; it's the velocity, and they want to really expand this envelope of testing where they can put the TPS under some strain. And remember, this is a vehicle that's destined to be a beyond Earth orbit vehicle. This isn't a return from low Earth orbit where it's 17,500 mile an hour and then braking and then bringing it out. Because when you people will laugh because I bring up shuttle every time when you come back from orbit, you're 17,500 mile an hour. You shave off literally just a few hundred mile an hour with the deorbit burn, and then you come back down. The gravity pulls you. That's how you come out of orbit. When you're returning from from a planet like Mars or the Moon, you're coming back at a much higher velocity. So you've got to really test these tiles in different kind of ways of doing it, and going suborbital and then firing the engines again. Ooh, it's one way of doing it. I do remember Elon saying that there. So I think that will probably be initial testing, but the real proof in the pudding will be these returns from like lunar orbit, things like that. The testing
Oh
they're
yeah.
doing with their moon, what have you. They're gonna go put this TPS under some serious pressure, a lot more than it will be from suborbital or even low Earth orbit. So yeah, it'd be a progressive way of doing it, but that's a quick fix way of doing it with a lower altitude to get some velocity up for some peak heating.
And that could have just been him kind of speaking off the cuff, saying this is something we could do. It doesn't necessarily mean that they will. And, if you follow SpaceX at all, you know
Yeah.
that these things can change.
That's
These
I
plans
actually
can totally
I
change.
put I actually love it. I like the idea of how Elon will have ideas. He'll put them out there, but he will change them.
Right.
And that's not him being indecisive at all. That's him constantly evolving the plan. I really admire that. I do, because it's hard for us to write articles and know that in about 2 weeks' time we have to change it because there'll be something changed.
Yeah.
It's always changing. But I like the idea of somebody who's not immune from changing the path or evolving the path continuously. I think when we had Eric Berger on NSF Live, that was something that came across that he's always multitasking. He's always thinking about new things. That's what will bring success, because if they're willing to change things, it's usually for the better. It's something that's different from what I remember from the old days of the Lockheed Martin, Boeing, United Space Lines, who religiously told me that if you change one thing on shuttle, you risk making two things worse. That's why they were so scared of making changes with shuttle. And as much as I loved the vehicle, it was dangerous. It was seriously dangerous. We lost 2 vehicles. We lost 14 astronauts. And a lot of that was to do with the fact that they would not want to change things. And it took a disaster for them to change things. So I like the idea of these starships, not only the fact that they got so many of them, the production cadence is crazy, where they can risk vehicles and not have a major setback when they lose one, but also that they're willing to keep making changes. I think they're quite happy with the design now, like the outer mode line, the aero surfaces and things like that, but they will still make changes to it. This is not the final version of Starship by a long way.
And we should see that engine chill starting here any second now. That is also what we call the tri-vent. That is when they flow liquid oxygen through the 3 Raptor engines in order to condition them for the static fire. So you should see 3 vents around the lower skirt of Starship. And when that happens, it'll be pretty clear. We'll point it out as well. That should be... That's a sign that we're about 12 minutes away from the static fire, if all goes well. So if you're keeping track of the timeline, 12 minutes is the engine chill start, and then the siren usually happens around 10 minutes, although lately with SN9 at least the sheriff was kind of hit and miss on the siren, so we'll see what happens, but the engine chill at 12 minutes is the next indication that we are looking to see.
Let's see if we can make it happen with this super chat. 549 euros, $5.49. Do you say cents in euros? Says, let's go vent from help me. Ferenc Paschier.
Oh, I'm sure. Let me look.
I should know this because they are a regular contributor, and Jack is always the one that knows this. I always forget, but thank you for the support. I think it's Ference. If I'm not
Okay,
Ference.
fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that it, Chris?
Yeah, Ference. It's European as well, so it's Ference. He'll write back now and say, that's nothing like my name.
Yeah, nice try.
Oh, can I read this one out?
Yeah, go.
Jamie Gillian, he says, hey up, Chris B fan, here hailing from Beverley. That's very local to where I am. It's also surreal when we get local people. I mean, we did a location one once, so I won't do it again because we're getting too close to this testing, but the amount of people you start recognizing names and then from the same city as you're thinking, how on earth has it got to this where these fans of this shiny vehicle out in South Texas are so far around the world that they're also even right from where you're from. It's just absolutely surreal to me. But I appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much. Got lots of Chris B fan clubs all of a sudden. I don't know if this is just a trend that started or it's actually real.
I think they heard you get so excited about it, and
Yeah.
and so now they're jumping on it. So yeah, but when launch is got a $5 super chat, Chris B fan club fund. There you go. And then, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
When COVID's over, we'll have some NSF meetups, and it'll be just me sitting in a pub thinking, "Where is it? All these fan clubs on."
I'll go.
Yeah.
We've got Noah Gruby or Grubby with $4.99. Elon talked about an orbital flight on the Joe Rogan show. How confident are you in an orbital flight this year?
Yeah,
Well-
I'll let you. I'll quickly add my point earlier. Is that I think it will happen, but there's a lot of things
And
happened
I'm gonna
before. Then.
interrupt Chris, because
Go
there you
for
see
it.
5 events starting.
Right.
Yes.
I'll
Starship.
quiet and do a tweet. I don't want to ban my voice on the tweet.
All right, good. Okay, so we've got engine show.
Started, yep, and that means we're about 12 minutes away. So that can shift a bit because there can be built-in holds or unplanned holds or something of that sort. But most likely now around 4:57 or so, we should see that static fire happen if all goes well. You could also hear that siren to warn the residents in about 2 minutes from now because that's a 10-minute warning siren. You can also see a ring of frost now forming on the liquid oxygen tank, so lots of good signs, Stephen.
Yeah, we're really progressing. As far as that orbital flight this year, it's really anybody's guess. I mean, it's gonna all depend on how the testing goes leading up to it. Does SN10 survive the flight? Does it maybe do another flight? How do the other ones do? We really have no way of knowing at this point. I see one of our friends, S Padre, gave us $4.99. Thank you very much, Gene.
Hi, Gene.
Has a message for Jack, actually. Jack, if you're listening. Jack, pull over and grab a Starbucks. Ours is still closed. So don't expect there to be a Starbucks when you get there, Jack. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Insel Berliner with €5. Did I hear Chris B fan club? Here I am. Go, Chris.
God.
Cheers. and try to read this right. Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? Try to read. Oh, Insel Berliner.
I think it's probably my terrible pronunciations of surnames.
Oh, okay. Let's see. What's next? Adam Fox with £5.
And Mary says,
Oh, go ahead.
quickly, Mary says they're about to do the siren.
Oh, good. All right. Well, we should hear it here shortly. Let's see. I think this is more a statement than a question, so this should be easy. Oh, it just disappeared. Oh, no. That was that thing you said, that sometimes it just disappears. Well, I just lost that super chat.
I'll find it.
Okay.
Just waiting for the siren now.
Yeah.
So I've gone quiet.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was doing too. Like, maybe I should just wait for the siren.
Was it the one about the mount from Adam, Stephen?
I think so. Yeah, Adam. That sounds right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
There
Adam
you go.
Fox with 5 pounds. It amazes me how little, how the little platform that Starship is mounted to can resist the stress of the Raptors. And yeah, you're right. That is impressive. And thanks for the support.
Mary's saying they drove by without blaring the siren.
Well, that sounds like a, I don't know what we should call that, but it is what has happened on the past couple of static fires. There's a static
Yeah.
fire with SN9 with no siren. There's one static fire with a very short siren. Don't seem to be too consistent with it, so I don't know why that is, but all indications are, from what we can see at the pad, that SpaceX is well underway towards a static fire attempt.
And a
Guess
few
it's-
things to reference here is that the T-minus 10-minute siren, again, I've mentioned earlier in the stream, but we've got a lot more people in now, is not exact. So, we've got to keep a very close eye on this thing. And when it does get real close to, like, static fire test, we'll go quiet so we can just not be talking over it.
I guess it's possible that the officer forgets to hit the button, maybe? It's possible.
I think it's the highlight of his day to run
You would
around with
think.
his car with his siren blaring.
All right. Maybe he's on the phone.
Yeah.
We're at 49. I think it was 57 we said was when we expect that approximate time for the static fire to be based on that time of the engine chill starting. Again, the siren has not happened yet from what we can tell, but the siren has been known to be late, it has been known to be early, and it has been known to not happen. So don't read into the siren too much.
The big indication for me is the fact that this is all progressing obviously quite well. There's no big vent where it's depressed or anything like that. It's continuing on, so we're getting closer and closer.
See if I can hit maybe a couple more super chats. Simon the Mac with 1999 pounds.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. There's no better way than watching a Texas tank being put through its paces. Loving the new graphics.
True.
Yep. And then, what did we decide the pronunciation was? Was it Ference?
Yep.
Ference,
Yeah.
yeah, and he likes
Ference.
it, so that's good.
Yeah, with 549 euros. Says, yeah, that's correct. Ha ha ha.
Mary says siren.
Oh, siren.
I mean, I can turn the ambient up more, but the construction noises are already blasting our ears, I think, so I'm not sure if we want that. All I'm hearing is construction noise, but if Mary hears
Yeah.
it, she
Alright, yeah.
obviously she's actually in Boca Chica. So if Mary hears it, that's the confirmation we need that the siren did occur.
It's the milestone.
My roommate just brought something in, something from the NASASpaceflight store. I wonder what that could be. Something was just delivered. I didn't realize it. I didn't even know anything was coming. What happened?
Now, was it for you or did your roommate buy it?
Well, it has my name on it.
There we go.
And actually, my mom has bought me a couple things from the store.
Oh,
When I
that's
told her I
nice.
joined the team. Yeah, she bought me a hat and a polo.
Shout out to Stephen's mum.
Yeah. All right, so we're getting down to about 6 minutes or so.
Yeah, if you want to take a few more questions, Steve, I'm going to get this tweet ready
Sure.
for the actual static fire
Sure.
because I like to preempt things.
Right, okay. Here we go. We got Odin Haro. Let's see. Will every Starship have to static fire before launch, or will this only be for early prototypes? From Glastonbury, UK. That's something we can't really know at this point. We know that Falcon 9 usually does a static fire before a launch, but they've also skipped it for a few. But a majority of the Falcon 9 launches have done the static fire, though I'll enter the speculation zone. And knowing that Elon wants Starship to operate like an airliner, I would say that he's going to lean towards not having to do a static fire before every launch. Eventually, that's not necessarily anytime soon, and also this is pure speculation on my part. But I would say that the ultimate goal when Starship's fully operational would be to not require that every time.
I think that's definitely fair to say.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Aaron Husledge with $5. Thank you very much. Chris B gets more of the love. And now this one, this is controversial. Moldy Space Industries with $2 says, he is
at top of Starship, the venting from the header tank and both of the forward flap areas right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
There's venting from the flaps.
Okay. Should we just chill
We might be
out?
getting close to game time now. Yeah. So let's.
Yeah.
We'll get back to your questions. Don't worry. We won't ignore the questions. We'll come back to them after the actual firing.
Yeah, it takes about 45 minutes to an hour usually to safe Starship after a test, so we'll have plenty of time for questions in a couple of minutes, but in the meantime we should be under 5 minutes, potentially as few as 2 or 3 minutes away from a static fire test. So stay tuned and don't go anywhere, and hopefully the good static fire test will clear the way for a test flight later this week. I know Jack is en route. We have upgraded robots en route. We have Mary obviously on site. We have these robots on site. So we have lots of plans to have another great live stream for that upcoming test flight of Starship SN10, which we are all looking forward to seeing.
And one of the things we'll look for is the tri-vent pausing for just a moment, right? And then
That's right.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. The lighting is really good right now, and there's very little turbulence in the air, so we got a really crisp shot from both of these angles.
Oh yeah.
Earlier, a couple hours ago, the turbulence was super bad and it all looked blurry from my robots, but right now you can see a crystal clear view from Mary's camera and then that robot as well.
And it was super foggy out there this morning too.
Yeah. Lots of frost on SN10. I mean, I'm not sure if we've seen this much frost on a static fire attempt before. Somebody let me know in chat what they think, but we never know as well if the timelines are going to differ between different prototypes, so potentially they could be doing a slightly different routine with SN10, which could mean that the expected timeline might be different this time around, but if the events play out like they did with SN9, we should be about a minute or so away from the static fire.
So that's the next thing to look out for, is for the tri-vents to change. They'll pause, almost like a pulse, and cycle. That will give us an indication about T-minus 60 seconds. At the very last few seconds, we'll see the tri-vent spurt. That's always a clue for engine ignition. If the tri-vent spurts and nothing fires up, we know it's an abort. Hopefully we'll see the obvious signs of 3 Raptors firing up.
Look at that shade coming in from the clouds. That's pretty cool.
I think we're really close now.
Still waiting for that spurting, but we are approaching 4:57 p.m. local time. I know that construction noise is loud, and I'm trying to keep it under control. I'm also trying to make sure we're about to hear great audio from that Raptor, so we'll turn down the ambient noise again as soon as the static fire happens. So if we're going by that previous timeline we had, we should have seen the static fire by now, but as I mentioned, we also see perhaps more frost than we've seen before. So maybe it's more on that siren timeline of another 2 minutes. We'll have to wait and see what happens. And there can also be built-in holds or unplanned holds that can take varying amounts of time and can make the timeline hard to predict. So we don't have a specific T0 that's official information from SpaceX. We're just going off of what we've seen happen before, but more than likely the static fire attempt should happen in the next minute or two. Still waiting for that spurting from the engine chill vents. Not seeing it yet. And that siren occurred at around 2:50. That's my time. 4:51 local time. So if we're going by the siren, it could still be another minute or two. You can also see that pretty clear frost ring on the liquid oxygen header tank at the very tip of the nose cone right now. Okay, so that's 10 minutes since the siren and still no static fire, but again, there can be built-in holds and whatnot. We have not seen a depressed vent, so
Yeah, it's
at the
important.
very
No
least,
depress.
yeah, at the very least, they're holding. They have not aborted. If they aborted, we would see that depressed vent. So either they're still counting down and it's a longer countdown than previous tests, or they are in a hold currently. We're not sure which one, but again, they have not aborted yet, so stay tuned.
For people who are fans of different cameras, just quickly, will there be an edited video later? You'll get all the views, so don't worry.
There goes the Air Force, checking it out one last time.
pulsing.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't sure if that was pulsing or not.
You can see that it's a lot of depressing right now on that camera.
I'm trying to go back and see if that was a good firing or not. From the estimations, it looked okay. Can't tell if it was all three though.
They did depress right away, which is usually, in the past, it has not always been a good sign, but I really don't know if that's a strong indicator or not. But we saw right after the Raptor shut down, the depressing started.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if they all lit up or not. Try to
I'm
roll
going
it
back.
back
The
and see
center,
it.
the center engine certainly lit up. We could see it because the stream slightly froze just at ignition, and it looked like three engines to me on the plume, but it's so hard to tell because of the way they fire. And of course, there's probably a staggered ignition as well. There's definitely a single one that fires up straight away. And
Yeah, that's what I
then-
was thinking. That maybe part
Yeah.
of the staggered ignition thing that they do.
Right, so I've got a tweet out now. We're going to tweet the replay out, which I'll put into this chat room, which you can then see as a replay. 1 second. There we go. I'll put that as a pinned tweet so people can see it because the chat room's going crazy. Pinned tweet. There we go. So if you click on that link, that's my recording of the static fire test. You can get an idea because of the way the camera's switched that you can see a single engine firing for certain. But when we get to the main Mary view, it looks like a three-engine static fire to me. So that looks like a staggered ignition, as on purpose, usually, with these Raptors. And then the only question is the immediate depress straight afterwards, which sometimes isn't a great sign. But again, they've changed these cycles so much, you can't really say anything negative towards it because everything else looks fine, the vehicle's still standing. That's the main thing. We've been through the experience of SN4, where the vehicle was not still standing shortly after static fire test, and that was bad, as you can imagine. So I'm hoping that's gone well. I think the best we can hope for is an Elon tweet at some point, which indicates it went well, it's a good test, and they're going to progress forward to the first net day, which is Thursday, for a launch. We're not too sure the altitude right now. It's between 10 kilometers and 15, as usual. TFR doesn't help because it just says to unlimited. So I don't think it's going to another galaxy. I don't think it's going anywhere that far. So yeah, hopefully we'll get an indication from Elon. I am just making sure my phone is ready in case he does tweet something. It'd be too soon anyway, I'd have thought. Where he will indicate that the data from that test is good and they can progress on, or if they need to do it again. So we'll find out. We'll see. The other indication we'll get, if Elon doesn't say anything, is that if Mary gets another letter through the post tonight saying a certified attempt tomorrow, then we know they're going to do another test. This test didn't go to plan, but hopefully it did. There's lots of caveats there, just in case, to cover the bases.
Because it is a test program.
Yep.
Always remember.
It's very easy to say, that looked good, the engine's fired up. Brilliant. We've got a launch on Thursday. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that at all. I think now, Steve, we go back to questions because the rest of this test cycle will be just depressing the tank, I would assume, and detanking the vehicle and safe.
Sure. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Mark B with $2 wants to know concrete dry in time for launch this week. We did kind of talk about that. It's hard to say. All we know is that Elon said that they could launch this week. So there you go. That's about all we know. We're not concrete experts. We'd like to be.
Yeah.
Or we'd like to know one anyway.
I'd love a meme version of the propane and propane accessories.
Yeah.
Do a concrete version of that.
This might be a good one for you, Chris, or Michael, maybe. Let's see. We've got Benjamin Pretot with 5 CHF. I don't know what that is. Maybe you guys do. Nope. Any recommendations on rocketry / SpaceX literature? New to the scene.
Arianespace's new book.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Start with Eric Berger and go listen to the NSF live show from this past Saturday. It's on the YouTube channel. It was a great interview with Eric Berger, and he's got a book that's out. Wait, is it out or is it coming out?
It's coming out soon.
Yeah, coming out, I think, in March. And yeah, that'd be a good place to start, especially if you want to learn about SpaceX specifically.
Yeah. And I've read it because I've got an advance copy, so I can say that without sounding like I'm just advertising. I've read it. It's a very good book.
Let's see. I'm just gonna go with Juliet because I'm only gonna harm the last name. So €5. Don't want to exclude anyone, so here's for the NSF fan club fund. But I do love to hear Chris B talk.
Oh, thank you very much.
Let's see. Royal Clark with $5. I tried to get this answered earlier. Just got to Brownsville for a month. Where do I go to see a possible Starship launch? Well, Boca Chica. That's the place to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question because a lot of people are going down there, but you got to remember there's a pandemic on right now, so we still got to be careful. We don't want thousands of people going down there because the locals who live there, they don't need that. You know, by all means, make a pilgrimage of it, but don't, make a mass outing just yet. You will have plenty of opportunities in the future. This is done to start the test program. There's a lot more vehicles, as we know from the daily videos, ready to go. So, the chances are, the longer you leave, the chances are you're going to see one of these land. And that'd be just surreal to see. I don't think people will go down, especially people in these kind of like chat rooms of our kind of streams, because we're more hopeful and positive. We want to see things succeed rather than, oh, look, boom, rocket went boom, that's cool. We're not that kind of audience. Pace it.
See, Andy A. We've got $5 Australian, I think that is, and it's got the A in front of it. Hey all, bit of a technical one. Could SpaceX use LOX to spin up the Raptors instead of helium, given that they already use it for pre-chill? That is not a question for me, but if either of y'all have any idea.
I defer to Michael, because it's not a question for me either.
I defer to somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't, maybe, but I wouldn't like to answer that in kind of a way of sound like an authoritative figure on it, because it's not that kind of engine, is it? Really, it's they're using what they've got for design on purpose, and it's been tested several times to the point that we know that a new Raptor arrived today. And it was on test stand just last month. This is something we know how fast they're evolving these vehicles and these engines, that they've now got a set design and now going for production rate. This is the thing with Raptors now, is they've gone through development stage. They are still a development engine as such because they're with their other vehicles, but they are a set design. The goal now is to be able to pump these Raptors out of Hawthorne to the point they've got the cadence sorted, because I would say probably the long pole item right now for Starship launches is the amount of Raptors they've got. They want to keep losing them. They would rather get them back. And that's why Super Heavy will literally launch with just a few Raptors, because launching 28 Raptors on the first Super Heavy test launch is risking 28 Raptors more than anything else. You don't want to lose that amount of Raptors. That's why they're doing it in progression, in increments. It's an important thing to remember with Raptors.
We've got Arnie Carlson with a cool $1 there. No question, just $1 for the pot. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's see. We got Florian Brilski. How well do you think we'll see Starship in the night sky? Okay. I see what they're asking. Kind of like how you can see the space station fly over. Well, Starship is a rather reflective vehicle, so I would imagine that the same rules are going to apply. That it's like with the space station, if it's in the right place and it's like within an hour or so after sunset or an hour or so before sunrise, you can a lot of times get an opportunity to see the space station fly over. And I would imagine that the same rule would apply for Starship because it is so reflective.
And I'm going to put another tweet into chat because Mary's got her own little clip of the static fire test from another camera. So I'm going to put that into chat so you can see that view as well.
Steve Diabo, $5 Canadian, maybe? Is that CA Canadian?
Yep.
Let's burn a good one, boys. Well, I guess that came probably before the Raptors lit up. So we did burn one, and we'll find out if it was a good one. Let's see. Kieran Phillips, $2 for first donation. Keep up the good work, guys. We appreciate that. Oh, this one's real nice. We got Jim C over here, $50, no question, no nothing. We appreciate that. That's very generous. That really helps keep the robots running, helps upgrade robots, that sort of thing. Keeps the lights on. Thank you very much. Well, this is nice. I'll have to take a picture. I'm going to take a picture of this before I read it because I got to make sure that I can send it to my mom. Ian Glennon with £5 says hashtag Steven's mom. There you go.
We'll have to have a special guest at some point.
Right, yeah. I don't know if she's watching right now, but if she is, she's thrilled. And then we've got €5 from Tommaso Ferreira. Just says, thank you, guys. Appreciate that.
Well, there's a good question, by the way, from Doug Otto, who asked, does venting by the flaps might be trying to transfer from the header tank? That's a thing they do. That during these tests, and for the flight itself, there's this transfer, this handoff. And it's a very key thing for Starship as well. Because remember, it loads up its main tankage for the launch. That's what feeds the Raptors during the ascent. Then it transitions for the flip and the landing burn to the header tanks, which are these, I say small, they're actually quite massive. We saw in a recent Mary video, one guy was literally pulling one around and it was bigger than he was. And that's a header tank. There's a header tank inside the methane tank, which is like halfway up the vehicle. There's a header tank right at the tip of the actual nose cone. That's the LOX header tank. These header tanks are completely, as you imagine, contain fuel. A small amount of fuel that's left over, like a reserve tank, can you imagine? And they provide the Raptors for the landing, for the flip and the landing burn. During SN8's landing, the header tank for the fuel, the liquid methane, failed. It lost pressurization, and that's why the engines gave way and it crashed back down, because it lost its thrust. It was over the landing pads and it got everything right apart from that landing burn. The flip was successful. With SN9, the flip wasn't successful. And for SN10, Elon has intimated that they're going to implement having 3 engines firing up, and then will deselect the one with the least lever arm, which will be, it's explained in an article I'll link in a second. That will be deselected if all 3 engines fire up. If one engine fails, they've got 2 engines still. So that's why they'll get the flip done. And that's why they can probably have a good attempt at landing it. And that is all supplied from the header tanks. So that's why the handoff is important. And that's why it's a very good question, because they could be testing the handoff during these static fire tests to give them some more experience and some more data on how it performs and how it works for them. So that could have happened. So it's a good question by asking.
All right, and moving right along, Slon Nerd with €3, just out of generosity, no question. Thank you very much. Let's see what else we got. Well, you know what? This is one that I've actually wondered myself, because when I'm not on NSF Live, I'm usually like in the car, and so I've got like YouTube going, and it's kind of, well, anyway, here's the question. Matthew Keene with $5 brought this up a while back, but what's the chances of NSF Live audio being published in podcast form?
We've had that question asked a few times. It depends on demand, because it requires someone to do it as well. For a start, we've got to allocate resources, which is our team, towards things that are in demand, in order. That's obvious. I think it may be a future idea to do it. I think the problem with our NSF Live show is a lot of it is visual. Exactly. So the podcast would have to be a visual thing, and that is what we do. So we're already doing it. You just replay the video. It's not like a live stream where you only get one chance to watch it live. It's something that's then immediately put into the archive on YouTube, and you can rewatch it at your leisure. And most people do from experience. So a podcast would be quite... It'd need a lot of planning, because if we start saying, and if you look at this on screen right now, and you're listening in the car, you're thinking, well, what am I looking at?
Right.
So, yeah, that's a challenge involved there. Well, certainly when people ask about things as an idea, we always take it on board and we evaluate it. And if it's a good idea and it's in demand, we'll do it.
Matthew Creighton with £2. Is there enough window time left for a second static fire? There is... Well, I don't know. Is there enough? No. Right now, I wouldn't think so. No. I mean, I was going to say maybe, but I don't think they will.
If they were going on the actual road closures, no. But they do tend to extend them if they want or need to. I think there's like a fine involved, which they can then sort of like, well, that's not much. We can pay that and have an extra hour or so. I don't think they're not in a stance to do that, and it would be more a case of a question if it was an abort, like with 1 minute to go, and they wanted to recycle the tanks for maybe coda locks or something like that, and then say, right, okay, we need a bit more time. Let's file another hour extension on the road closures and try this attempt again. We've seen it fire up, so I think it'd be a case of that firing being good and proceed towards launch, or they'll say, no, we're not happy with that, we'll try again tomorrow.
Right. Another question from J-Dog Killa with 10 Canadian dollars. I wouldn't say oh, here we go. This is the concrete question again. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but typical concrete takes 28 days to fully cure, 7 days to be to the point where heavier things can be on the concrete. My dad did that for a living. Well, there's some insight there. There you go. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, and the question about the podcast, it was asking about what I think. I've asked him in chat. Maybe a second show, which is just in podcast form. That's all. Again, it's a lot of work. You got to remember, we don't do this full time. People think, you get super chats, I must be doing this full time, you'll get paid. It doesn't work like that. Trust me, all the resources go back into paying for what we're doing right now. And we all got our day jobs, so it's a question of allocating positions and jobs to people who've got time to do it. And when you start adding more and more things, you've got to increase the team more than actually putting more pressure on the team we've got. So that's a big question where it's validity and it's demand and it's viability of doing it, you know. So that's why we were thinking if there's a podcast, it'd be a podcast version of what we do already with the NSF Live show rather than a second show, if that was the question.
All right, let's see.
Oh, I've got one. The
Go
devil
ahead.
you know. Sorry, I see questions. I think I know I can answer them, and I'll tick them. Devil you know, £5. Thank you very much. Could Starship be used to collect old satellites and big space junk to help them solve that issue? I've always used the example of Hubble as something where what's called a chomper system on Starship. That is the as you'd imagine, it literally is like a fairy in half that opens out like an alligator mouth, and that can deploy large satellites. But it could also be used, I would guess, because it's not being shown as a way of being used, to collect things like Hubble. It's big enough for Hubble, would you believe? Would you want to bring Hubble back down at the end of its service life rather than deorbit it and burn it up? I would.
Yeah.
Would it be able to survive the stresses of re-entry and that flip maneuver and landing? I don't know. When I say survive, I mean things not falling off it, because it's obviously the end of its service life, so it doesn't matter if the electronics get, broken up a little bit. But I think space junk is certainly a market where it needs solving, and there's enough technology out there that right now, uncrewed, of deployable satellites, which are just turn up on normal rockets right now, which can be proven to do the task, because they're doing that now. They're doing lots of test objectives with certain capture systems where they can remove quite large pieces of space junk from threatening orbits where they could impact with actual operational active satellites. I don't know if your use of Starship for that would be viable, because Starship is a big, super heavy launch vehicle. It's not there for the minor tasks, shall we say. I don't mean to say that space junk's a minor thing. It's not. It's a big thing. But it's a problem that can be solved by smaller spacecraft. I would say the only thing where it would come in handy is you could launch a batch of those space junk removal satellites in one go, and that would be a nice way of saying Starship's capacity has been put to good use. As far as its chomper system, I think it'd be retrieving large satellites, but the only one I can think of that's viable to return for some kind of put on display would be Hubble.
Right, yeah, because most of the satellites up there aren't the kind of thing that you want to necessarily save. You really just want to have them burn up in the atmosphere. Yeah.
And Steve Perry in chat just says the chomper system sounds something like in James Bond movie. Yes, it's exactly like that. It is in that movie. It's in it's not Moonraker. It's camera. Help me out, chat. Which James Bond movie? I think it was Sean Connery. Movie. Did they use a chomper-like system to? I think he actually took an astronaut or a cosmonaut. You only live twice. There we go. That was the Bond movie, and it literally looks like that. It does as well, because SpaceX's official graphics show it, and it does look like that in the Bond movie. I wonder if it was in that movie. I wonder if that was some kind of something Elon's watched and thought that's not a good idea.
Oh, and someone in the chat, actually, it was, you knew this person. Yeah, Sarah Ecton said, Steve, open your merch. I did, and it's a Texas Tank Watchers shirt. What do you know?
Hey.
And I had no idea this was coming. I
Nice.
honestly don't know who this came from, and I'm trying to think, who did I give my address to?
That'd be a first clue.
Right, yeah, that's what I was trying to remember. Like, who have I given my address to? I don't know. Well, if you're listening right now, thank you, and tell me who you are, because I probably know you, and I probably just forgetting who sent it to me. But thanks.
There's somebody in the background with a smug grin on their face going, it was me.
Yeah.
And by the way, just a status update. We've had the static fire test. That's been completed. We don't know if it's a good one. It looked okay. But again, you can't say that from visuals. You've got to wait for either the obvious clues, which is the progression towards launch, which will be in documentation form, and essentially when Mary gets told to evacuate from Boca Chica Village. That'll be Thursday at the earliest. And we do hope Elon might be listening in. I don't think he'll be listening. I think he'll be watching the internal loops. But hopefully he'll tweet something, which will give us an indication it was a good static fire test. The other thing is, if Mary gets another notice tonight saying it's a static fire test tomorrow, that means they're redoing it. That means it didn't go well today. So that's the things we've got to look out for. Right now, we're watching it being detanked and safed. That will take a while, and then the pad will eventually open, and the road will open, and that'll be the end of testing for the day, and that'll end of our stream. So that's what we're waiting for now. We're just waiting for the vehicle to safe, and that'll take a while, and then the road will reopen. You'll see the SpaceX party vehicle, which is a Tesla with police lights on. Down that road, you can see it in the view right now, rolling down there with the rest of the pad crew, and then the road will open, and that'll be the end of the day of testing.
And DOS just gave me a little nudge in the back channel to read the card. I didn't realize there was something else in the bag. I guess it came from the NSF team for being on NSF Live. So awesome, thanks. Right. Well, whoever does that, thank you very much.
It's one of those things I'd like to put on the stream. We can't read because it's got your address on it.
Right.
just drive on your address. There's no harm in that. Nothing bad will happen from that, will it?
No. Nothing ever bad happens from giving your address to the internet.
Moldy Space Industries, stop sending super chats. You're bad as Andre. I mean, he's the best of NSF.
Yeah, that was the one I was going to read before the static fire actually happened. Yeah, I was going to say this is a little controversial.
My eyes were immediately glazed towards the technical question for some reason. Doesn't surprise me one bit. Pro 100 Tree Tech. I think. Thank you from Russia. Good luck. Appreciate that. Heather Clinton, no question, but $4.99. Again, I always baffle by those because they're just great. I really appreciate it. Most people do the super chat because they know the questions get asked first, but again, all the support is just so much appreciated. It really is. I can't say that I'm from Yorkshire. I never sound sincere when I say that because I'm a Yorkshireman. But we do appreciate everything that's sent. Seriously, we really do. We could not do this. It would not be viable to do this at all without the support. There's a lot of data involved. There's cameras being bought. There's so much goes involved with this. So that's why it is appreciated. Thank you very much. Adam Fox, £5. He's UK. I can tell by the currency. How much, what sort of data did you obtain from the short static fire test? By the way, subscribe to love your channel. Thank you very much, Adam. Yeah, the data from a static fire test is very interesting. It's something to do with Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, and other companies do static fire tests as well. Not many. ULA don't do it, but we know that a static fire test is very useful in several ways. First of all, it checks the ground support equipment, the GSE. It checks that the fuel in the rocket, the propellant loading, so everything from the condenser and the fuel tank farm activity is part of the static fire test. When they don't fire the engines, it's called a wet dress rehearsal. Again, static fire test is a wet dress rehearsal, but with the firing of the engines. So that's why it's the same kind of thing. They test the GSC, they test the tankage, they test the pressure ratings, they check the vehicle structure is fine. They then check the things like the static fire will be the igniters, the pre-valves, everything like that. It's spin cycles. A lot of things are involved with the static fire test. It is literally a performance test of the engines when it gets to the firing point. That's when you need a few seconds. A few seconds is enough data for them to get the data from the engines to say, yes, I fired at a certain thrust level, I fired healthily, I shut down properly, everything worked, the igniters were great, thank you for the igniters. This is the engines talking, by the way. And then it goes through the detanking cycle. So it shows it can save the vehicle. That is all the test objectives. It's not just does the engines fire. That is not a static fire test. It's not just that. There's so much involved. And that's why it takes a few hours sometimes with Falcon 9, especially, before SpaceX will tweet, successful static fire test today, the launch is set for blah, blah, blah. They take that few hours because that's the few hours where the engineer's looking over the data, checking all these parameters, and be lots and lots of parameters. I'd love to one day rack the brain of a SpaceX or a rocket scientist and say, how long is your check sheet for a static fire test to check it was a good test? Because I can imagine it'd be pages long. And they will check the data on the computers to make sure it's all okay before they get the thumbs up and say, yep, good static fire test. And that's when SpaceX press officer will tweet out saying, yep, okay, good static fire test. We've set the launch date. The irony about that is that the day after the static fire test usually is the launch readiness review. And from the shuttle days, the launch date was never actually set, even though it was always predicted and put out there in public. A launch date. The launch date itself wasn't set until the launch readiness review was done, or the flight readiness review was done. So that is the irony of the launch date situation. That even after they do all the testing, the actual launch date itself is never set in stone until literally just before. So that's why we always use a thing called net, which is no earlier than, as a way of saying we've got a launch date, but be prepared for it to slip because these things happen. So that's a long-winded way of saying what a static fire test does and why it takes a while for confirmation of the next step in the process, which is launch. It takes a while. I can't read. Can I read this one out? I'm going to read it out. It's okay. It's after the watershed in the UK, so I've got an excuse. SN10's got a nice pair of header tanks, if you know what I mean. It's a Monty Python reference, so I think we can allow that. Christopher Trance with €2. Thank you. Why don't they start landing maneuver earlier? Ooh, there's a long way of answering that. It's going to take too long to answer. But the idea is the reason why they start the landing burn when they do is the velocity involved and the thrust involved. If you start it too early, you're going to be coming down and run out of fuel with the header tanks. If you come out too late, you're going to thrust to slow down. There's lots of things involved where they've timed it right. I'm sure Tim Dodd did some references to this, and I think he's still doing it. I don't know if he's done the video or doing the video where it shows why they light them up at that particular point in time. And it's all to do with it's designed that way. So you can't start playing around with that too much. The reason why I was pausing when I was talking about that is because Elon did then tweet something suggesting that they're looking into ways of lowering the throttle ratio for Raptors, because Raptors can only lower the throttle to a certain point. They can't go like 10%. It doesn't work that way. I think they can go to about 50%, something like that. Let's say 50% for the sake of argument. They can't go lower than that, but they're looking at ways of going to lower. And that will give them more leeway to do different things. So that's something to watch out for as some kind of like future mitigation towards maybe changing some kind of profile. But yeah, there's a reason why they don't just change it based on what's happened with SN8 and SN9. The current mitigation is to go with a 3-engine light. And if one engine doesn't light, they've got 2 left. And that's what they need for the flip. If all 3 engines light, brilliant. But they'll have to deselect one because they've got too much thrust then. So they don't want that. They want to deselect one engine. And that'll be the
and you're using more fuel.
And
you're using more fuel that way.
This is the things they're going to play with.
Yeah.
It's thrust and propellant, and it's all to do with that. They want 2 good engines for the flip. Like they did with SN8. Let's face it, SN8's flip was good. It was just the landing part didn't work out because they lost the header tank. But they know they can do it. They know the flip works. They've seen with SN8. That's the beauty of this flip. But they can't do it with 3 engines. They can't have all 3 firing at a very, very low throttle rating because they don't throttle down that much. So they're going to go for all 3 engines and deselect one.
Yeah, it's not like when you drive your car, you get home, you've still got enough gas left in the tank to go somewhere else. It's not like that. When Starship gets on the ground, there's not going to be a whole lot of fuel left in there, ideally, if they've done it as efficiently as possible.
A nice one by Derby Studio. Stumbled on your channel a month ago by accident, and I've been glued to your channel ever since. Love your channel, thank you. That intrigues me, by the way, how people stumble onto channel by accident. Because I think the reason why we've got a lot of subscribers already, we've only run the channel for like less than 2 years, and we're on what 307,000 subscribers. First, there's several ways why it's grown. One is because I'm Mary.
Right.
The content is the saying in the media is content is everything, and it really is. This is original content. You'll see a lot of Starship channels which are just talking over our video, other people's videos. This is original content, and it's quality content. It's important to recognise that Mary's out there all hours of the day to get all these different things, and that also brings the content level up to the point where you put a video out which is 15 minutes long. It's got about 10 different videos in it, 10 different things, subject matters, rather than just one 30-second clip of something happening, at one point during a day. So content is everything. The second thing is it's part of our site. The site, NASASpaceflight, is 16 years old next month. So the site is a big, heavily read site. So when you promote the channel, our channel on our site, that's an immediate audience. But the people who have found the channel by accident, just randomly, that might be YouTube recommendations, maybe.
Yeah.
Which is, I find that fascinating. That people
And those great thumbnails. The thumbnails are really good.
Oh
too.
yeah, brainy
I mean,
thumbnails.
yeah, and they, those hook people in too.
Yeah, that fascinates me because I know we've got a core audience. We're a rocket site, for pity's sake. You're gonna have a core audience from that. But I also find it fascinating that if you find people who have never been into rockets before, and they might have seen a thumbnail on YouTube recommendations, randomly showing them this silver rocket and their screen, they're going, you know what? I've never been interested in rockets, but for some reason that looks quite intriguing. I'm going to click on it, and then for them to find it interesting enough to sort of like stick around and subscribe.
Yeah,
that's amazing to me. That's what stuck out in the question for me, is that the chances are that Starship and all that's going on, there's so much going on in the world of spaceflight recently with Perseverance and other things like that, where we're getting new people involved in spaceflight, we're getting new people interested in it, and they're following along and they're enjoying it, they're sticking with it. That's just amazing to me. So it's very encouraging as well. That's why we do it. We've got a core audience. We're not some like intro to rockets. A rocket has engines on the bottom and pointing the top. Not to get copyrighted by Tim, with his pointy end up.
right.
But it's it's quite hardcore. So when you get involved with this and you're interested and you stick around with it, then praise to you, by the way, because we are a specialist site. We're not, some general media site where we'll occasionally bring on, the subject matter as a kind of introduction. We're hardcore. We're straight into it. So well done if you're into that and you've got interested into it and you're following along.
I think that's why I got into photographing the rockets. I mean, the goal is to try to bring more people in. I like it. It's like it's not really like a team thing. It's not like a political thing. It's just like, hey, look at this cool thing that humans can do. And some people, the only reason they're not into it is because they haven't been exposed to it. And so, they just need that one thing to have that realization. Oh, there's all this stuff going on, and then they just dive in. That's sort of what happened to me.
It's funny, really, the stories behind how people got into this sort of thing. I mean, I go back to Shuttle, obviously.
Right.
I can't get through a stream without mentioning Shuttle. I had already anyway, so I'm all right, so I can keep talking. It's just fascinating because the stories of what first, impacts on you as something you think, well, wow, that's amazing. And then you follow it and you get involved with it and you get really into it. It's a tough subject if you can imagine the complexity involved with these vehicles, but it's also something you can show kids on TV. And there's so many Twitter feeds and of videos, of clips of kids watching a launch, and they won't have a clue what's involved.
No,
but they love the sight of it and they find it cool and they jump up and down celebrating this rocket firing up. And it's something that you can get people involved in quite easily, but the trick is to get them involved where they start reading books and looking at videos and reading articles and then finding a little bit of knowledge behind it, a little bit of understanding, because as soon as that happens, I think you're hooked. Then you start realizing, what the heck? These are fire-breathing silver, well, for Starship's example, these are fire-breathing silver vehicles, feeding off LOX and liquid methane and doing these flips and landings. It's something where it's sci-fi movies today. We've not had this kind of, not since SpaceX came along, have we not had something which is looking like a sci-fi movie. When we saw Falcon Heavy's 2 boosters landing at Cape Canaveral, that was surreal, to the point that Westworld, the creator's a big SpaceX fan, he used that landing of 2 Falcon 9 boosters. Yeah, he used that in a scene of a futuristic scene. So he literally took something that's happening now and used it in a futuristic scene. I thought that really impacted me when I saw it. It was more a case of, look, he's using these SpaceX fan angle there by using Falcon 9 landings. But the way he used it in context was, this is the future and it's something from today, rather than, us watching a sci-fi movie as something in the future, but it's not happening today. And I loved that. I thought that was just an impactful moment where the context of what SpaceX is doing right now is futuristic, but it's happening. And that's why I have such hope for Starship, because until Starship came along, Starship and Super Heavy, there was nothing out there that could have the capability of this to achieve the goals that they're looking to do with this vehicle, which is create a base on Mars, a permanent home for humans, making life multiplanetary, as Elon says. Yes, we can mention SLS, we can mention New Glenn, we can mention New Armstrong, which doesn't exist yet, as super heavy lift vehicles, but they do not have this kind of capacity because they do not have the reusability, they don't have the launch cadence. New Glenn does, but SLS is a super heavy vehicle. That's the first one's coming along. It's a super heavy launch vehicle. It does not have reusability. It has a launch cadence of 1 a year, and that is not enough to start building bases. So I'm intrigued by this, and I've said it before. I make no bones about it. I am objective as a journalist, and I'll cover all the vehicles fairly. But I'm a fan of this vehicle. I don't care. I'll say it to anybody. I want this vehicle to succeed.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of points of entry for spaceflight. Some people get into it just because it looks cool, or some people get into it because the potential for science. Some people maybe hope for the future of humanity. Sort of like a Carl Sagan type of idea. So I think it's people come with different perspectives and different points of entry.
Carl Sagan, I'd like to see the Kennedy Space Center's Path 39B being, if SLS ever goes to the wall, I want it converted into one of those spinny things for contact.
Yes.
Let's get Haddon Industries involved.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. I'd take a ride.
By the way, there's a story behind that. David Waters, who was a journalist at the time, they actually, in the film, the movie, you'll see a part where in Contact, the spinny thing, I don't know what to call it, which they were building for Jodie Foster.
It's like they just call it the machine or something, right?
The machine, that was it. Yeah, it was just called the machine, wasn't it? Yeah. When it blew up, they show a pan towards the VAB, and you'll see lots of people running away from the CGI effects of parts of the machine splashing into the causeway.
Yeah.
They were journalists out there for a rollout of a shuttle, and they were all told, "You want to be in this movie?" Seriously, yeah. They were all told, "You want to be in this movie? All you got to do is, when we give you the cue, is run away looking scared for your life." They are all journalists. Yeah. You go back, watch Contact if you can on DVD or online. I'm showing the age there. On DVD.
I bought it on Amazon.
I was going to say VHS at one point. Go watch Contact. Watch it back. That point where the machine gets blown up by that terrorist guy. And you'll see them pan towards the VAB, and you'll see lots of people running away, scared. They are all journalists out there for a shuttle rollout. That's
awesome.
What they've used.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, it was pretty. It's pretty. I mean, I saw that movie years ago, long before I ever had media access to Kennedy Space Center. But I watched it again recently, actually a couple times recently, and it's very surreal to see that press site and having stood there and seen that exact view that they're showing there. Of course, there wasn't a big spinny thing out there at the time. But
the movie filmed it around the shuttle launch, because what they did was you'll see another part where they show a big, massive crowd of cars and people along the, I don't know where the part is, but it's where they go for shuttle launch. And they are a shuttle launch crowd. Just filmed it from that. So
could have easily been, like 528 or US 1 or, these roads around here.
Lines of cars, lines and lines. I think people don't remember shuttles too much because a lot of people got into this because of Starship and the recent things, but shuttle launches used to have massive crowds.
Yeah.
They really did. I remember people going out saying they were queues for like 8 hours trying to get out of a shuttle launch when they're scrubbed. It's just like so many cars.
Yeah, I never got to see a shuttle, unfortunately.
Yeah, people make fun of how much I love shuttle. Trust me, I also understand how dangerous they were and how expensive they were and how they were very capable in what they could do, but they were stuck in low Earth orbit, so they weren't capable in that respect. You can love something and understand their faults, shall I say?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's shuttle fans who just think shuttle's brilliant. they're not real fans. They don't understand shuttle. You can respect shuttle for being a very capable vehicle in what it had to do, but it never achieved what it wanted to do. And the irony of mentioning that is Starship is what shuttle wanted to be. Shuttle wanted to be a rapidly reusable vehicle. It never was. From the start, it never was. It had a design. It had people pulling a design left, right, and centre, which changed all that, and it couldn't achieve what it was envisioned to do, which was to launch every week, literally launch every week.
Right.
So,
that's how they sold it.
Yeah, and it just never got close to that. Never was going to get close to that anyway. Starship, you take away the complexity of shuttle, you add more capacity, more capability, and you take away the restrictions. You take away the dangers of having it side mounted to an external tank. It's an inline vehicle. So key. Inline is so key. When you're in line, your payload, your passengers, everything's at the top. It's not at the side getting battered by TPS foam, which is what happened, what went wrong with Columbia. Badly went wrong with Columbia. It's something where you remove the complexity but add capability, and you have Starship. And Shuttle would have loved to have been Starship. Just imagine if this had been in the 1970s or early 80s. It's the amount of things we'd have done by now.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Surreal.
All the all the expectations of we're going to have a base on the moon and on Mars and stuff. That may be the reality that we'd be faced with right now if Starship existed that long ago.
I mean, the thing is, he always said that von Braun had the plans for Mars, and it was going to be the next evolution from Saturn V. It's the problem there was money, but Starship would have taken it out of the equation because it's so much cheaper. This is a vehicle that costs so far less. Anything's been done before. You know, it's so hard to explain that SpaceX has already proven the validity of their business case with Falcon 9 when you've got vehicles that are launching for the 8th time. These are Falcon 9 is a very capable vehicle. It's got a lot of power behind it. When you look at Starship, you think Starship is infinitely more powerful. Yeah, of course it would with the super heavy booster and the refilling. That's what brings it into the game. The refilling is key, but it's when you can reuse a vehicle, it's so daft when you think about it that expendable vehicles don't have a business case when you look at it side by side with a reusable vehicle, because it's like Elon said, it's like flying in an aircraft to your destination from one airport to the other and then throwing away the plane. It doesn't make any sense at all. And it's funny how it doesn't make any sense. It's almost like, well, that's obvious, but it's never seemed obvious before it's been proven out.
Yeah,
So,
it seems like when this all the space program first began, it's like, okay, well, let's do what we can do right now, but it seems like somewhere along the line they should have progressed, and I guess that's what Shuttle was trying to be, like you said, but it just wasn't able to hit that mark.
It's amazing because we went backwards. When we lost Challenger, the US Air Force pulled out. They were going to build a second launch, but they actually built it in Vandenberg, SLC-6, sorry. And that was all kitted out for Discovery to be Discovery's new home. They were going to launch polar US Air Force launches from there. When Challenger was lost, US Air Force went, pulled completely out from a reusable vehicle and went to the expendable Titan. So literally we took a step backwards.
Wow.
And these things don't really, it seems sensible at the time because they're thinking, well, we just got to get our payloads to orbit. We don't care about the economy of the rocket. We just want to get our payloads up there. We don't want them to lose them. We need these big space satellites up there. Thank you very much. Who's available? Who can launch it? Titan. Thank you very much. We'll buy a lot of Titans. But when you look at where we are now today with the economy of reusability and where SpaceX can compete for these contracts, these US Air Force, ironically, US Air Force contracts. There we go. Got it out there in the end. It is late. It's only midnight here. They're now in a position where they're forcing the market because these other contractors who are coming in saying, we would like that contract as well, please, are using their expendable rockets and saying, oh, damn it, SpaceX are going to be able to do this for a much lower price because their rockets land and they can reuse them. We need to make our expendable rockets even cheaper. And it's amazing the market forces that creates. And guess what? All these other companies are now thinking, well, our next vehicle in the 2030s will be reusable. I wonder who forced that on them.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I bet they weren't planning it before Falcon 9. So
No.
it's amazing how it's created that. He does that. Elon does that with his cars. I guarantee you, electric cars were seen as little tiny little box things, like little pandas that you plugged in at home, and people poked and laughed at you, and said, "Look, electric car, it doesn't make any noise." Electric cars are cool now, and everybody's doing electric cars. All these big petrol companies, these petrol cars like BMW and Jaguar and even Rolls-Royce, for pity's sake, are all now saying we're going to go electric by 2025.
Yeah.
Because
you're kind of starting to see commercials for the big car companies talk about electric vehicles, kind of like they've always embraced it, and you're looking at it like, no, you haven't. Thanks. It's good that they're finally doing it, but it's pretty obvious why.
I'll be honest, Stephen. I'm in my 40s. I can guarantee when I was, in my teenage years, there was no way in the world I would want an electric car. There was no way. I would have thought I'd be like everybody else, thinking, I want a nice, big, powerful as my car when I get a car. I didn't want an electric car because all electric cars were back when I was a teenager were the tiny little dinky cars, the little silly cars that, maybe your grandma would drive. Little three-wheelers. I can't remember the name of it. There's a three-wheeler electric car for like OAPs, old age pensioners. And that was literally what electric cars were. I guarantee you I want an electric car now. I'd love a Tesla. Yes, please.
You know what else you want, Chris?
What?
A replay.
Oh, we got replays.
See if this works.
Let's hope for the best.
The server we're using to pipe this in, it keeps crashing on me, but hopefully this will play. And this is from one of the robots at the village. There is the ignition and the static fire. So that's what we saw earlier.
Okay.
And there you can see the
There's
sound
vibration. Yeah.
It was definitely engine ignition. That's one thing for sure. It wasn't like just pre-burners or anything like that.
No.
Now, do we get to see that side view?
It looks like that connection is not happy again. But
It doesn't like it. How dare you do picture in picture?
let's watch it one more time. But it looks like to me that we definitely see that depress vent right away. So I'm not quite sure how much of an indication that is. But if it is an indication, it's from what we've seen before. It does not seem to be a good thing. But I will work on queuing up that angle from the other side as well. This is the live picture again.
Okay. Well, we should probably try to hit some of these super chats that have been sitting here for a while.
Don't ask me any questions, Stephen.
especially anything that might possibly lead to shuttle.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Don Frederick with $4.99. That's U.S. dollars. Very much enjoy your live stream during this test. Thanks. So thank you very much, Don. Let's see. We've got Austin Inglis. We're all still wanting to use Starlink for your robots. And then they said, my order just became available. Well, congratulations on that. Hopefully you're in a latitude where you don't get too many cutouts, because that's going to be a big thing. Is your latitude is going to sort of determine how reliable that service is.
Okay, here we go. I do have the replay from the other angle. So this was, I should move that frame though, but this is from the camera from the other angle as well. So I will just quickly hide and put up the replay indicator so people don't think we're showing a second static fire when this does happen. But I will hide that live preview quickly because it does not look like that much is happening at the pad right now. If I can find the button I'm supposed to what? Come on. And we lost the video. Come on, thing. This server is really struggling, so we're gonna go back to the live camera. And I'll see if I can get that fixed.
All right, so hang around, everybody, for just a little while longer, and hopefully we can get that video for you.
Also, the fact is we're going to have 2 videos coming. We're going to have a daily video from Mary with lots of stuff, such as Raptors arriving, and we're going to have the static fire replay video after that as well. So you'll get all the videos you need, all the footage you need coming up not too long.
Yeah, and it'll have all the angles that are available anyway.
Yep.
Let's see. We got $6.99 Canadian. When's the last time the thrust simulator was used? Will we ever see it in use again? Thanks for the gooderistest streams. Yeah, you take that. I'm not sure what they're talking about, the thrust simulator.
Yeah, there was that steel hat on top of SN5 and SN6, which was a mass simulator. Yeah,
mass simulator. Okay.
Yeah, it was a pretty little hat.
Right.
It was like 10 ton or something stupid. It was very heavy, but that's what they were using it for, just to simulate the nose cone's mass. So they wanted the two 150-meter hops. They could get the proper mass during the actual hop itself. They've both been cut down, SN5 and SN6. We were hoping that one of them will get painted white and used as like a thing to put the human landing system nose cone, which is the production site, put it on top and have a proper Starship test article there. But no, they've chopped them both down, unfortunately. So that's not going to be seen again because they've got nose cones on now, so they don't need the mass simulator.
All right. Let's see. Rickert C.
Hang on. I've got to stop here. Someone's saying thrust simulator now.
Well, yeah, that's what it said in the.
Oh, I only simulator. I thought mass simulator by my mistake. The thrust simulator.
Okay.
Are we talking about the hydraulic rams, which they used to have under the mount before a wet dress rehearsal, just to test the thrust part? If so, yeah, there's people in chat saying it was about the hydraulic rams. No, we're not going to see them again. I don't think we might for super heavy, the BM1. Depends how they bring them out. So, yeah, keep an eye on that. But for Starship, I think they've done with them now. Sorry, Stephen, go on.
You're all good. I thought maybe they misspoke and said thrust simulator and meant mass simulator. So yeah, I had no idea what was going on there.
No, I only heard simulator.
Okay. So Rickert C with €2. What are your day jobs, if you don't mind? I don't mind. I don't know if Chris
I don't mind
was talking about that, but I am a pizza guy here on the Space Coast.
I'm a journalist. You're thinking, whoa, yeah. I'm a sports journalist, unfortunately. But yeah, I work for Sky Sports.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Well, that's funny because I feel like.
Why do you think I keep mentioning football in Discord?
Right, well, yeah, I've seen you refer to round ball or whatever, and I just assumed, oh, he's joking because he's not into sports, but. You know a lot about sports, apparently.
Yeah, I don't mention it too much because it's my day job, so you don't want to come home and start talking about it as well.
Right. Yeah, I don't come home and start talking about pizza. I mean, sometimes I do if I have something interesting happening. Pizza guys, we experience a lot of different things out there on the open road. Let's see. Musical Wolves with $2. Does this venting look like they're about to try again? I think I can speak for everyone when I say no. They're spooling down, they're detanking, and I mean, yeah, we're really. I guess the next thing we're waiting for is that final depress, and yeah, and then on to pad reopen and road reopened. So yeah, I don't think we're expecting any static fires anymore tonight.
No, we're on the bots now because Mary's gone home to upload the static fire clips. So we'll have that video coming after her daily video, which is currently being in the final process of being edited by Brady. So yeah, it's all about that now. We're just waiting on the bots for the road to open, which will be the indication that officially the testing for the day has ended.
Yeah, so if you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you'll know when that video does come out to get those angles and the way you can see those how you want to see them. Sean M with $5, just $5 right there. No question, just $5 cool. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you,
Sean. And then we have a new member, Raymond Martino. Thank you very much, Raymond, for that continued support.
Oh, we should mention the memberships, by the way, because we haven't
Yeah, go ahead.
Look at that
super
vent.
chats.
Sorry, look at that vent.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah, is the final depress is the same one that comes from that
Yeah.
midway up, right?
The higher one, yep. So I'm not sure what that was. Perhaps a test of some sort, maybe a quick disconnect test. That's sometimes what happens when we see a puff like that, but impossible to know for sure.
All right. The Barters with 10 Australian dollars says, thanks from Australia. Well, thank you, listening from down under.
I've just replayed that venting event. It came right from the mount itself rather than directly under where the Raptors are. So that did look like quick disconnect testing.
Jim Please with $5. Thanks for broadcasting the Chris B show. Ain't it the truth?
It's the Chris and Stevens show.
I'm glad Chris is here because
You know
he
what?
talks a lot. I can just chime in when I actually have something to say, and it's not all on me. I'm glad you're here to chat it up.
To be fair, it's the Mary show. It's always the Mary show.
Always, yeah, for sure.
I just can't believe you said router on stream earlier.
Hang
Whatever
on a
that
minute.
is.
Can I just by the way, before I make fun of my accent and my way I say words, we've just got a $500 super chat,
Wow.
which is the maximum possible ever to be sent, and it's incredibly rare on anyone's stream. Never mind just 6,000 people at the end of a static fire test. That is surreal. Ernest has done this before. Ernest Galvan. That is utterly surreal and very much appreciated. It will be put to good use, trust me. But that is amazing. Thank you very much. He says another good month for Tesla. I think it's the Tesla stock.
Oh,
And
yeah.
a hearty thank you to the whole team. Again, it doesn't matter if you've done well on the stocks or whatever in life. The fact that you're willing to do that here on this
That's
stream, you know,
incredible.
yeah.
Andy Law with £5. This was kind of funny. Oof,
That's
Chris
it.
B. You just revealed that I'm older than you.
Oh, I'm older than Mercy, yeah, trust me. I'm in my 40s. I remember Duran Duran.
Hey, didn't they perform at like Yuri's Night or something a little
That
while
wouldn't
back?
surprise me. They're still going.
Yeah.
And we just saw another big vent there as well from the bottom. So that's hopefully just more signs of it detanking and more than anything else. I think that's all it really is.
I paid better attention to it this time. You can see on this camera, kind of, it's a bit further up the vehicle than a quick disconnect.
Okay, yeah, I just backed up and saw it too. It's like where the tri-vents are, but it's just one of them. Is that right? Or are the tri-vents lower?
It might, I think it is right at that tri-vent area.
Yeah, I was going to say about that area, isn't it? Let's go take some other questions here. NASASpaceflight, hey, not sure how to understand the news about today about New Glenn's debut. Does it mean it will roll out and start testing the pad this week and maybe fly later? Well, it's a Pathfinder, first of all. They've got no flight engines. Even ULA's not got any flight engines, B4 flight engines, I should say. They're all Pathfinder engines which do not fire up. They're used for fit checks and for fueling checks. And ULA is ahead of the game in that because they're launching first anyway, with Vulcan, which is now a booster, which has arrived at Cape Canaveral. It's on the new mobile launch platform they've got there. And they will do fueling tests with it, like a wet dress rehearsal. They will not fire the engines because the engines do not fire. They will then recycle that tank into a flight booster, by the way. That's what Tori's said. He's going to use that booster, the testing now, the Pathfinder booster, and convert it into a flight booster for a future flight. With New Glenn, the news today was that they've got their Pathfinder vehicle ready and they're going to roll it out this week, hoping well. And they will use it. They won't do anything like ULA did, which is basically, lots of events for it. They will literally probably do it in private and maybe tweet some pictures out later. Maybe. Blue Origin, they don't really do too much publicly. and that will just be a structure as such, and just test things like transportation and things like that. I don't think they'll use it for tanking. I'm not too sure, but it's a Pathfinder, so it's not a flight engine. It's not a flight booster at all. The first New Glenn flight is supposedly going to be announced this week. It's not yet been announced. When it will be launching is a question we don't know. So we'll have to wait to see what Blue Origin say, and then take that with a pinch of salt, because even Blue Origin and all these companies like this will give out a estimated time to launch, but like with many vehicles, including SpaceX vehicles, they don't tend to launch on that timeline. Natural slips happen because they're complex vehicles. These things happen. So just wait and see.
And actually, it'll quite literally be a Pathfinder, because this will be the first time that they've ever rolled it out of the factory and down to the launch site, and it's down there towards the tippy bottom of the Cape. So they're up by the visitor complex. Actually, they're right across the street from the entrance to the visitor complex, and so they'll have to. I mean, it's not like they don't already know the path they're going to take, but yeah, it'll be literally the first time that they've ever rolled something that big, I think, down the road like that. I don't know. I could be totally wrong about that.
Well, no, the thing I take away from this is that Blue Origin's been around for a long time now. They've had these New Shepard launches. They've been saying, even I think Jeff Ross tweeted today that in 2019, Jeff Bezos said we're going to launch Crew this year, and he's just said it again. Well, not Jeff, but somebody else said it today with Blue Origin, and it's now 2021. So they've had delays. I mean, everyone has delays. I'm not going to be unfair on them, but the thing is with Blue Origin is they're so quiet in the media. And even their Twitter feed is so quiet. It's all designed to be positive and never anything like development, because they don't want to show that. They want to just show milestones. So I'm hoping that with this Pathfinder, we will start seeing some milestone tweets where they show things like this. And we'll get a sign of Blue Origin moving forward, where they'll have a future in the next coming months to next year, where they'll be able to launch Crew on New Shepard, and they'll be able to launch New Glenn on its maiden flight. And that's when Blue Origin can say, we're up and running. We're going for it now. We're properly involved in this, because they have a lot of money put into this system now, where they've got this massive facility on Cape Canaveral. They've got a huge launch pad facility at Cape Canaveral. They've got an engine development system in West Texas and another place. They've got so much infrastructure built that when they do get to launching, they'll be up and running, and they'll be literally at pace, where they could really sort of like make a big impact when they actually are launching.
There's the D-press, Chris.
There it is.
Right. Hoping for the Elon tweet, but that's just me.
I'll go ahead and hit this super chat. This is from Harry Stranger.
Harry.
Harry is a great dude. He does a lot of the satellite imagery. If you follow him on Twitter, or really if you follow me, follow Chris B, Chris G. A lot of times we'll retweet him, because he'll take these satellite images from or of Kennedy and the Cape and everything, and lots of other places, Boca Chica and everything, and they're always such great photos, and I don't know how he does it, but he's really good at it. He's got the market cornered on it. But it's a reference for me. Rockets and Risoblites. It was. I used to do a stream myself with a couple friends, where we would just talk about different things happening around the Space Coast. And we had Harry on the show, and we kept saying rockets and Risoblites, because that was like, if I wanted to try to do the Australian accent, that phrase would recenter me. Rockets and Risoblites.
Rockets and Risoblites. I can't do accents. I'm not going to try. I thought I was going
to Rockets and Risoblites. So yes, thank you, Harry. You're awesome.
And with this big D-press now, which is going on, that pretty much is the end of testing for today. We knew that anyway, but it's just the next step along. And the next thing we'll see is the party vehicles right up that road. That'll be the pad crews going back to the pad.
Well, there's the top one shut off. Let's see. How long does this one usually go?
it's a few minutes, and I think they've done a proper normal cycle.
There it goes.
And I'm eager for this road to open because I'm up in 5.5 hours for work.
Why don't you go to bed, Chris, and Stephen and I can handle it.
Ready? Okay. Thank you,
Yeah, there
guys.
you
Thank you for all the support, and thank you for all joining in. And hopefully, we'll be seeing a launch. Maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but maybe Thursday. Let's hope for the best. Thank you all.
Hopefully.
See you all later. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Michael.
See you, Chris.
And I am seeing if I can finally get the replay working. We had to switch to a different system because the other system was having all kinds of issues today, but I will put our preview in the bottom left corner so we can see what's happening. I will put the replay indicator up so people don't think they're about to see another static fire. And then we will go like this and watch the replay of the test. This is from Mary's camera angle, as you can see, and I think this might be the depress part. Yeah, this is looping, so this is from Mary's camera, and we'll watch it through a couple of times. We saw what appeared to be a full duration test in terms of length. We're just not quite sure why that depress happened so quick, but presumably it's fine, and hopefully Elon will confirm why, or whether or not it was a good static fire test. But like Chris just said, if so, this should clear the way for a flight test as early as this Thursday, so that is exciting, and hopefully it won't be too long, although, as always, testing schedules often slip.
Yep.
You can see that pulsing right there, just a couple seconds before ignition, as usual, from those engine to vents, and then the actual ignition happens a couple seconds later, and we should see that any second now. Or maybe 3 seconds more. I'm not sure.
There.
I mean, in terms of duration, that looked pretty normal to what we see, so I don't know. I think that might have been a good static fire. We definitely saw from our other angle that at one point only one engine was firing, but I think they have a staggered ignition process, so I don't think it's actually a sign of a problem. This is from that other angle that decided to freeze right at the last second, unfortunately, during the actual live coverage, but as you can see, we did recover the replay. So here is the full duration static fire clip from that camera.
I mean, you see the stream, you see the exhaust from one engine, but then it gets real bright after that. And to me, my first impression is that's all the engines turning on.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. It's just that you happen to notice that first one igniting, and then the others. Yeah, I think that's all three.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely all three. Just a staggered ignition process. You can actually see that hiccup in the video. I think that was because of that signal problem we got right at static fire for whatever reason. Just the way it goes sometimes, but we switched to Mary's camera quickly, and you saw the rest of the static fire on Mary's camera, so that is why you have multiple cameras. Unfortunately, the static fire tests are only a couple of seconds in duration, so you don't have much time to react, but nonetheless, presumably a good static fire test, but still waiting for official confirmation from Elon.
I mean, you did switch it pretty quick. I was pretty impressed by that. It was like, oh, it froze. Oh, we're already on the other camera. Cool.
And luckily, Mary's camera is actually, the latency between the cameras is not synced exactly, because these are just like cheap robots. They don't have actual like fancy hardware that tells you the time, so you can sync it up perfectly, like on really expensive broadcast cameras. But because of that, that worked in our advantage, because Mary's camera was a second or two later, so when I switched cameras, you saw pretty much the entire static fire from Mary's camera, so we got the static fire.
Gotcha.
But anyways, I think we will go back to the live image. This is from the same camera, obviously, but you can see not much venting right now.
No. Yeah, you could. I think you see a little bit of vapor, I guess, down there by the engines, but that could easily just be because stuff is cold. It's not necessarily venting.
Yeah, I
Right.
think definitely still in the safing process, probably getting towards the road open.
Well, in the meantime, Future Martian slid in with a cool $10. I know Future Martian is in here a lot, so thank you. That's so generous to always be in here throwing them super chats. We have Paulus Plain. Have some more North Korean dollars. Love from Norway. All right, that's 50 North Korean dollars there.
Luckily, it's static fired when it did, because look at that fog.
Yeah. It's moving. Man, it's moving in so fast. Like the sun just went down over there, right?
Yeah.
Do you have
It's
any
like,
idea when sunset was over there in Boca Chica?
I'm not sure I can look it up, but this is, if you ever come out to Vandenberg, Steven, I don't know if you've been out here yet, but
No.
this is the proper Vandenberg treatment right now. Dusk comes and the fog comes with it. And the rocket goes away. Looks like sunset is at 6:28, so we're about
Oh, we're still not
9
even there.
minutes sunset.
So it's a little cloudy wherever the sun's at.
Yep. And on this camera, also can tell there's some fog rolling in.
Wow. Yeah, it's actually looking a lot like what Mary was showing us this morning when she first got started, saying that it was super foggy out there. This is getting right back to the way it was. That's crazy. It was so clear leading up to the static fire, and this fog just moved in so fast. Oh, there you go. There's a nice wide.
Yep.
Wow, those clouds are really moving fast. Although that's probably more because they're low to the ground, which is what fog is.
But anyways, you can probably start taking any final questions and thinking about wrapping up. I don't think we're going to see another static fire today.
No, I think that's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah. We're past the window closure already, so.
Well, we've got €1 from Jim Flip or Jim FLP. Thank you very much. No question, just some cool cash. And then let's see, Musical Wolves with $5 says it looks like their engine looks like they are testing engine shutoff with header tank transferring. Okay, yeah, that was something that we were, I think, talking about earlier. And your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Huh, it looks like while we were focusing on the static fire test, they made some serious progress on the elevator at the high bay. You can see this from the other camera.
Oh
But
yeah,
that
you were watching this all day.
Well, I had to watch something while I was waiting for the static fire to happen, but if you look on the right side of the high bay, you can see that pillar going up kind of a couple feet away from the side of the high bay, and that is a new construction elevator that they installed today, so
Oh,
that is
okay.
what that is. I'm going to flip our other robot around and take a look as well. Nothing going on to pad right now.
Yeah, so work has continued here at the production site during the static fire, right? Like they're far enough
Yeah.
away that, yeah.
In fact, even for launches, the production site, I believe, is one of the last things to clear so that they can continue work. I'm not actually sure if they close out all of the production site or only some of it. I think actually the control center is at Stargate for launches, so not the entire production site gets evacuated, but a significant percentage of personnel do. But that is the closer-up camera of the
cool,
new elevator.
Nice.
Whoops,
Yeah.
and I just zoomed out on the wrong camera. When you have multiple robots, sometimes you accidentally control the wrong one, but there you go.
There's a pine tree.
Anyway, I think we're going to wrap up. Is there any other super chats that we missed?
No, super chats are clear. Thanks everybody for throwing some cash our way. It'll be put to good use.
Looks like they might be about to stack something into high bay, but we will keep an eye on that for the daily videos. Thank you all for tuning in. That was Stephen Marr on commentary, helping out today. So thank you, as always, for tuning in, Stephen, because without additional commentators, these streams are quite long.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to do it anytime I'm available.
We also had Chris Bergen on commentary earlier. He was the one that called a router a router, but we appreciate the accent nonetheless. It is it is always funny, in my opinion. But
yeah.
We had Mary as well with the video live from Boca Chica. Without Mary, it would be not possible to do all this. You saw what happened today when we try to use a robot. It doesn't always work out as well as a person in the field. So that's why we have Mary as our most valuable asset for our Boca Chica coverage. And then I am Michael Baylor. Thank you all for tuning in today. And we will see you hopefully later this week for the actual flight test stream. Once it happens, we will be live at sunrise as usual. So for the actual launch day, we will start our coverage much earlier than normal. We will have a marathon stream from sunrise until the test is complete. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully SN10 will stick to landing, and we will see you all next time.
Chamber pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Water towers, fly! Flight downside, FD off. Off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.